Hi everyone, well, I'm doing a quick review for you on two Thinline drop rig saddle pads today. The one is the cotton model and the other one is a half wool panel model. So we'll do the cotton one first. So this is the one you can currently see on the screen. This pad has cotton around the thin line here and on the underneath side as well. And there's a wool fill inside the cotton, but it's really quite thin, which is nice. So the pad's overall fairly light. The Thinline panels here, you can actually shim this pad. So there's a bit of a hole in there, so you'll place your shim in here on either side. And you can also cut the shims to fit. When you purchase the pad, the shims are not included. So if you need shims, you'll have to purchase them extra and make sure that it is for this particular pad. So you can see there's also some thin line at the bottom here and some girth keepers. So that's really nice. The pad doesn't really move when I ride in it at all. It just stays put. And I actually didn't clean this pad on purpose because I wanted to show you what it looks like. So if I flip my pad over, you can kind of see it does absorb sweat, but it also leaves a little bit of a, I guess, residue, so dust and dirt on the cotton. It's not horrible. It's actually quite easy to clean the pad, so it's not something I complain about, but it's just something of note. I don't actually like putting it back on the horse like this. So what I sometimes do in between washes is I'll just brush this when it's dry with like a body brush or something just to keep it clean. But it is a very nice soft surface on the side anyway. So just something else that's really cool is it's got a mesh panel for the spine. So this actually is really nice because it breathes. So I never have any sweat on my horse in the spinal area at all. And of course you can see the pad is shaped. So nice contour there for the weather. Okay, so this is cotton version. I'll show you now the half panel wool version. This pad is heavier than the cotton version because there's wool. So just keep that in mind. So the shape of the pad is identical to the cotton version. The only difference is that there is a wool panel under the top half of the pad. So pretty much where you see Thinline on the top of the pad here is where there's wool underneath the pad. So the bottom section here is cotton. So it looks identical to the other one. We've still got the girth keepers here and the Thinline. And we've got the spine-free channel, the mesh channel there. That's really nice as well. And then underneath, we have got wool. Now, the wool here, this is actually the primary pad I use for riding. And it's because I love the sheepskin so much. It really absorbs the sweat well, so it keeps the horse cool. In winter, it keeps the horse warm, it warms the muscles. So I just love that material. It's really good. So I'll just flip this over so I can show you properly. This is what it looks like. So you can see there's no wool on the spine-free channel. And that's nice because when you actually have the pad on the back, it clears the spine perfectly. So there's a lot of space there between the panels and the spine. So you can see it doesn't go all the way down. That's why it's called a half wool pad, because the other half is cotton. And again, there's a bit of wool fill in the cotton. Similar kind of situation. This pad's not clean. And I did that on purpose just so I can show you what it looks like. So if I had to part the wool, and it might be a bit hard to see on camera, but the wool inside here is actually still clean. So, and this is quite typical of sheepskin. You can part the wool and see the lower layers are clean. So it's really just the top surface layer that tends to get dirt on it or sweat, for example. It's not as hard to keep clean as people think. So you can actually just, when it's dry, you can brush it with a curry comb or a body brush. You can also vacuum it. I like vacuuming it when it's dry. You can, if let's say your horse has sweat into it, you don't have time to wash it, you can actually take a damp cloth and just kind of brush it over the wool, and that's going to just get rid of the sweat. You will have to just dry it though. So the best way to dry this is just like I've hung it up here. Just hang it in the shade and just let it air dry. When you want to wash this pad, you can do hand washing with this pad, which is what I do. You can use normal wool wash. You just wash the whole pad and then air dry it. Do not dry it in the sun. And I actually found through experimentation, the best way to dry it is the other way around, where the thin line's on the outside. Just because it's got that shim pocket underneath, I just find it dries it a little bit better, so there's not any dampness in the shim pocket for a longer period of time. So as long as you keep it kind of open like this, but that the air can get in everywhere, it's actually quite good. It does take about 2 or 3 days to dry when you do hand wash the whole thing. So just be aware. And that's why I've got 2 pads. So I've got, this one is my primary use pad, and then I've got my cotton pad for when this one's in the wash. So, and I'll compare the 2 pads side to side in a minute. But just to give you a rough idea on price, you can also shim this pad, by the way. Okay, the wool pad here, I just want to clarify something that's on the website, but people don't necessarily understand what it means, is this is merino wool. So what Thinline actually does is there's no actual sheepskin on here. This is needled wool. So there's a synthetic backing on underneath this wool, and the wool is actually shorn from the sheep and then needled into the synthetic backing and placed onto the pad here. So no sheep were harmed during the making of the pad. No sheepskin at all. So the price of the wool pad is US dollars 275. That's roughly 400 Australian dollars. The problem is this pad is not available in Australia. So I actually went on holiday in the US and I bought myself this pad while I was there from Thinline. In saying that, if you did want this pad, I suppose you can order it through Thinline Australia. They may be able to order it in for you. I've never tried that though. But yes, this pad is definitely in the US. That's where I got this pad. Okay, and then for the cotton pad, now I'm just going to compare the pads next to each other so you can see the difference here. The cotton pad retails for 225 US dollars. And that's about 365 Australian dollars. So I guess, again, a little bit hard to see when you're sort of on the camera, but just the thickness of the pad, I just want to compare this for you. So if we look sideways, you can kind of see the thickness difference between the 2 pads. The wool's obviously going to be a little bit thicker than the normal Thinline, but in saying that, it's still really thin. This is not much at all. But I love the shock absorption of that particular pad. This one's fantastic as well, but I just prefer this for my everyday riding, that's all. So there you go. 2 identical pads, one with wool, one without wool, and both of these they're the drop rigging pads. They fit Western saddles. You can also put this under, say, like a stock saddle because it's quite long in front. So yeah, this is going to fit a variety of saddles. You're not going to have any issues with this pad. I would probably say it's very slightly a tad too long on my saddle, but I prefer it being a bit too long than too short. So it's not been a big issue for me. But yeah, I do love these pads. They last a really long time. So again, an investment. The only downside of these pads is that they only come in one color. So, if you're someone who likes lots of colorful saddle pads, that's a bit of a bummer because they only come in black, these particular ones. But, this is just something I deal with. So I'm not particularly picky on color for my pads at this time. So there you go. Other than that, love the pads. They wear really well and they're definitely worth the money.